bad cop, which is, it's a technique that we use all the time in the criminal investigative world. It's an effective technique, but it wasn't allowed in Iraq for a long time, although it was allowed as an enhanced interrogation technique in Guantanamo Bay.
Why wasn't it allowed in Iraq? Because they didn't want the good cop?
I've never gotten a good explanation about why we weren't allowed to use good cop, bad cop. If it's torture, then why do we use it in criminal interrogations? It's not. And I think it more has to do with the fact that there wasn't a uniform policy from the beginning for all interrogators that applied across all theaters, which there should have been.
Scott Horton, your latest piece in Harper's Magazine, Justice After Bush, Prosecuting an Outlaw Administration. You think President Bush on down should be prosecuted?
Well, I think we have to start with a proper investigation before we reach conclusions about who should be prosecuted and for what crimes. I think there's simply no question but that serious criminal conduct occurred. And in fact, we've had prosecutions already. I mean, we can count 17 NCOs, so it's grunts at the bottom of the military food chain who have been prosecuted for this abuse. There has been no accountability, however, for those who made policy. And I think as a matter of proper administration of criminal justice, it's the policymakers who should most be held to account. So the first step is to establish all the facts and establish them carefully and calmly. Who took what decisions when? Security classifications have been wielded very effectively to obscure much of what went on. I think, Matthew's statements make that clear, and the redactions in his book make that clear. In particular, we know these things were going on inside the Special Operations Command, and security classifications were used to keep that entire tale secret, even secret from congressional oversight committees that attempted to probe into it. So the answer here, I think, is for President-elect Obama to appoint a presidential commission of inquiry like the Rockefeller Commission, or a hybrid presidential.
What's the Rockefeller Commission?
The Rockefeller Commission was appointed to look into criminal conduct within the CIA in 1975, the same things that the Church Committee was looking into. Or something like the 9/11 Commission, which is a hybrid congressional presidential commission, and fill it with eminent persons, give it a clear mandate, and let them get to the bottom of the facts. When the facts are established, and that's a process that I'm convinced would take a couple of years, then we can deal with the question of prosecutions.
Scott Horton, has any U.S. official ever been prosecuted for torture?
We've had military officers who've been prosecuted for torture twice, in 1903 and in 1968. Both of those cases involved waterboarding. And we had camp commanders during the Korean conflict who were court-martialed and punished for abuse of detainees. So the answer is yes. But higher-level policymakers, no. But senior military officials, yes.
Now, Obama officials, advisors to Obama, have said that he is unlikely to go after anyone involved in authorizing or carrying out interrogations. And then there's the question of President Bush, whether he would issue any kind of preemptive pardons.
Well, that's an AP report, and the AP report relies on two sources, and I believe one of those sources is John O'Brien, who was the chief of staff to Mr. Tenet, who would, of course, be a target of such an investigation. So it's easy to understand why he would say Obama won't do it. I'm told.
And of course, he is head of the transition team on intelligence, but has taken himself out of the running.
I think that's correct, and I'm told by the Obama transition team that no decision has been taken on this issue, nor is there any particular rush or need to take a decision before January 20th. In fact, I think there's an important piece they're waiting to see play out, and that is whether President Bush is going to issue a preemptive class-based pardon. And I think there's a lot of speculation that he'll do it. The president, before he leaves office, may very well, and if he does it, I think it'll be on his last day on the way out, issue a pardon to all those who were involved in the formation and implementation of his enhanced interrogation program, what he refers to affectionately as my program.
Now, this is from Reuters. It says that ex-generals will be going to Washington to urge Obama to take action on the torture issue. They're saying Barack Obama should act from the moment of his inauguration to restore a U.S. image battered by allegations of torturing terrorism suspects. They're planning to press their case with the president-elect's transition team in Washington. About a dozen retired generals and admirals expected to meet with his team, saying that they're going to offer a list of anti-torture principles, including some that could be implemented immediately. Matthew Alexander, do you know about this?
I've heard of this, and there's not just retired generals. There's people within the military who have stood up. There's people who stood up with me in Iraq and said no to torture and that they wouldn't do or participate in certain things. Colonel Steve Kleinman, who is probably the most senior officer we have in the military, who has been trained as an interrogator, has spoken before Congress several times. And his story is also told in Jane Meyer's book, The Dark Side, about how he was sent to Iraq to teach interrogators how to use Siri techniques.
Psychologist.
Yeah,
Isn't Kleinman
Siri techniques are the evasion and resistance techniques that we teach our own troops how to resist against interrogations. And he was sent to Iraq and told to teach interrogators how to use these as torture weapons, and he refused to do so. So the change, I think, has come from people within the military who have stood up and said, no, this is against American principles.
Were you subjected to Siri techniques? I mean, did you go through that training?
I did go through Siri training, and I remember this moment, I'll never forget, at the end of Siri training.
Where were you?
I was in Spokane, Washington. It was very cold. It was